Hello, everyone. Let's talk about our beautiful country, Uruguay. Wow, the Uruguayan anthem, the best of the world. I love it. And you? Well, let's introduce some information about our country. So, Uruguay is the South America's second smallest country. It's bordered by Brazil and Argentina and lies along the Atlantic Ocean, as you can see in the map. Its capital is Montevideo. Much of the country consists of gently rolling land only a few hundred feet above sea level, along with wooded valleys. Uruguay's highest point is found on the top of Mount Cathedral at 1,685 feet, 514 meters. As neighboring Argentina, most Uruguayans have ancestors from Spain and Italy, who immigrated to the country in the 19th and 20th centuries. Most of the population is Roman Catholic, though a small community of Jews, one of the largest of South America, lives in the capital of Montevideo.
The 1920s in Uruguay was a productive and economic rearrangement. After the intense trauma caused by the Great War that ended in 1918, there was a rapid evolution of the democratic system. The end of the First World War meant a deep economic depression due to the fall in exports. Uruguay entered a serious financial and banking crisis that lasted between 1920 and 1923 during the presidency of Baltasar Brum. Export decreased and the Uruguayan peso devalued up to 40% against the dollar. It was not until 1924 that the economy fully recovered. Between 1925 and 1929, the external debt increased 22% due to the credits that the Bank of the Republic took to support the price of the peso. The national economy was less solid than it seemed when it hit the wall in 1929 with the Wall Street crash. In the early 1920s, broadcasting, then also known as wireless telephony, was one of the most important developments of the time. Starting in 1922, the first stations, General Electric, later called El Espectador, and Radio Pardizábal, were installed in Montevideo, which were initially experimental and had almost no listeners. The use of automobiles, although still very minor, expanded rapidly after the war. In 1923, 2,205 vehicles were imported, and in 1927, 2,749. Ford's legendary Model T was at the top of the list, succeeded in 1928 by the Ford A.
The consolidation of political democracy. The 1920s witnessed electoral struggles in which various parties sought to consolidate the political peace achieved in 1904. The National Party participated actively in political life, and although the Colorado Party was dominant, its electoral advantage was slight. Each political party was internally divided because of ideological, economic, and social differences. To the existing Colorado factions, Riverism and Vierism were added the Colorado Party for Tradition, also known as Socism, founded by Julio Maria Sosa in 1925. Splinter groups of the National Party included the Radical Blanco Party, founded by Lorenzo Carnelli in 1924, and Social Democracy, founded by Carlos Quijano in 1928. The parties were divided into traditional Colorado Party and National Party and minor or ideological parties UCU, PSU, and PCU. Baltasar Brum, one of Valle Ordóñez's followers and a former foreign minister, was succeeded as president by a neutral Colorado, José Cerrato, who turned over the office to a Riverist Juan Campistegui. It was difficult for adherents of Fascismo to implement their agenda despite having the occasional support of other political sectors. Nevertheless, additional social reforms were enacted. In 1920, compensation for accidents in the workplace and a 6-day work week were made law. In 1923, minimum rural wage was passed, although it was never enforced. A social security system was created in 1919 for public sector employees, and the program was extended to the private sector in 1928. Despite the reforms, a union movement, weak in numbers, was organized in several umbrella organizations. The Uruguayan Syndicalist Union, encompassing anarcho-syndicalists and communists in 1923, and the Communist General Consolidation of Uruguayan Workers.
Economy and Society in Uruguay from 1920 to 1929. Although the country had suffered the immediate consequences of the post-World War I crisis, a period of recovery had quickly followed. It was characterized by growing prosperity, sustained mainly by United States loans. A continued increase in population accompanied economic prosperity. The 1920s saw the arrival of the last great wave of immigrants, consisting mainly of Syrians, Lebanese, and Eastern Europeans. Between 1908 and 1930, Montevideo's population doubled. As a consequence of the first external shock of the 20th century after World War I between 1920 and 1923, in Uruguay, cattle prices and livestock exports decreased, so the economy went into a recession. From 1924 to 1929, there was a recovery of the European economy. Exports went up, there was industrial growth, and immigration, so the Uruguayan economy grew until 1930. We also have to mention that in this period the economy was based on the gold standard. The paper currency was backed by gold. The exchange rate was fixed. There was free circulation of gold between countries. There were no international organizations that regulated it, and it was limited. Countries could not devalue. The gold standard was abandoned in 1929. Until the 30s, Uruguay was growing outwards, and that growth was supported by the primary sector of its economy. There it had comparative and competitive advantages, produced efficiently, and was inserted in international trade flows. This period was characterized by early urbanization, early industrialization, and social legislation. Uruguay was like an European country and not like an American one. Once the war is over, Uruguay grows but inward. With the crisis of 1929, new decisions were taken to promote the national industry. There was a strong growth of state bank, credit to private sectors, and an Uruguayan currency crisis started. Well, here from Mercedes, thank you. Goodbye.
Bye, 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 people. See you in the next video. Bye.